Hi, in this session we're going to discuss number 27 of the Gospel according to Thomas, which by the way is my favorite piece of biblical work. King James Version is nice, but it was written 70 years after the death of Jesus, whereas the Gospel according to Thomas was written while Jesus was alive. And I've said it in previous sessions that if you talk to biblical scholars, they'll tell you that the New Testament was written by multiple authors. In fact, I put up something on Facebook and somebody said, do you know that that book has been edited 63 times? And that's fine and dandy, because what's left is still valuable guidance, especially when you learn how to read it from a symbolic point of view. That aside, this particular teaching never made it into the King James Version, and now you'll understand it when I tell it to you. I'm going to paraphrase it. And basically what Jesus said was, you have to fast from the world. If you do not fast from the world, you'll never see the kingdom. And then he went on to say, you must keep the Sabbath. And if you don't keep the Sabbath, a day of rest, you will never see the Father. And I've talked about the Father being patriarchal society, so we'll go past that. Going back to the beginning, fast from the world. What does it mean to fast? It means not to consume, not to partake, not to have, not to eat. Consume, eat, one and the same, right? Except eating is food, consuming is buying, going after material acquisitions. And he's saying the more that you go after the material things to fulfill what you think is a need within, an emptiness possibly, who knows what you really think, I don't know what you think. I only see things as they are without, from a symbolic point of view. And what appears to happen is that so many people are out there trying to buy things to fill an emptiness that they think they have, when in reality they don't. So no matter how much you buy, it's never going to make you happy. Doesn't matter how much money you have. If you don't accept yourself, then underneath it all, there's still not true peace, not true happiness, not true acceptance of self. It's like you have something to prove. Well, $1 billion just ain't enough anymore. So what Jesus is saying is that as long as you're into over-consuming, there's no way you can find the kingdom. Period. Because the kingdom is within. Remember Luke 17:21, the kingdom of God is within you. Well, if you're so busy trying to consume and you're in the pursuit of what it is you want to consume, you'll never have the time to go within. That's point number one. Number two was keeping the Sabbath. What is the Sabbath? It is a day of rest. Depending upon what you've listened of mine, you've heard me talk about cycles. And if you haven't, here we go. Everything in the universe flows in a cycle. The earth revolves around the sun revolves around another, galaxy, another solar system, which revolves around another galaxy, which revolves. So everything in the universe flows in a cycle. This is why we have the cliche, history repeats itself. Well, guess what? So does your personal history repeat itself. No matter how many times you said, I will never be in that situation again. I'll never work for that kind of a guy. I'll never get into that kind of a relationship. It's like battered women who get out of a relationship only to find themselves back in another abusive, battered situation. And it may be different. It certainly looks different. The time element is different, but the energy is the same. Now, instead of it being a physical battering, it's a verbal battering. Battering is battering. Abuse is abuse. So what Jesus is saying is, you have to take the pause part of a cycle. Because here's the whole deal with cycles. And go back to Genesis. Let's go there a minute. Because when you read Genesis, it always starts out as night and then what God does during the day, and then that's the end of the day. Now, a cycle has two parts to it, a pause and an action. In fact, somewhere in the Gospel according to Thomas, the disciples are getting ready to go out and preach the gospel and do healing and things of that nature. And one of the disciples said, well, Master, if they ask, what is the sign of the Father in us? And his answer was, it is a movement and a rest. See, dreams, nighttime is the pause part of the cycle. That's what dreams are there for, to help you understand the energies you're going to have to deal with tomorrow. And those energies are based on whatever was stimulated today. Somebody said something to you, you read something, somebody gave you a look. It triggered a subconscious concept in your mind. That in turn triggered a particular pattern of behavior. All patterns of behavior flow in cycles. So, in the pause, your mind will give you dreams. In the action, it will give you symbols, so you still have a way of changing the outcome of a pattern so the history doesn't have to repeat. So, if you analyze your dreams, and you could use the Dream Dictionary, Symbol Dictionary, to help you begin to get a handle on symbol reading. And symbol reading is essential. It's how your mind talks to you. It's how your mind guides you. It's how your mind keeps you on that narrow path that leads to life that you find. And that's in Matthew. Look it up. It's a fabulous passage. At any rate, cycles repeat. Your history repeats. You have the opportunity of changing it by catching it, where you are in that pattern. And once you have an insight, once you read the symbol, you have an insight, you change an attitude, you change the outcome. What Jesus is saying here is you have to take the time to pause, period. Because if you don't pause, you'll never see the flow of cycles. You'll never see your own patterns of behavior, let alone the patterns of man. And looking at the patterns of man, we are headed into very dark times yet again. Because our history is repeating. Stop yours from repeating. Take the time to disconnect. Fast from the world. Take a pause. Re-examine everything that's going on. If you have any questions about any of that, you can reach me here. I'm always available to help you grow into the spiritual being you have the potential to be. It's all about going within the self, disconnecting, taking the pause, seeking to understand and gain control over your patterns of behavior. So, until we meet again, take care and God bless.